Hi guys, welcome back to our Porsche restoration project. In this video we're going to go over some of the dashboard trim components, restore a couple parts on the dashboard today, and install this aluminum trim. Reason I'm doing this now as opposed to down the road is I'm trying to take advantage of the timing. Car's still on rotisserie and I'm getting ready to install the steering system down through the dashboard and the rest of the car, which I need the rotisserie to do that. So this area right here, we're going to have to line these two pieces up with the steering column going through this area. Is quite large, and it's just going to be much easier to do without that piece in there. So that's why we're installing this now. Originally I ordered a new replacement one of these from one of our quality part suppliers, but problem I had with it is a typical problem. You get the parts in, quality really is not all that great and full of scratches. So you can see our original dashboard here is quite faded, got some blemishes in it, so it really does need replacing. My friend Don and I, we made this together in cabinet shop. Took the both of us almost 8 hours to knock this thing out successfully. Had a few blunders along the way, damaged a few pieces, but eventually got through it. So what we did is we cut some rough cut pieces a little bit larger than our original dashboard and some shim pieces. And what we did is we stacked them up using a router and a template flush trim bit to pattern cut that. I'm not going to do a video on that process because it is quite dangerous. A lot of metal flying everywhere. Router can get away from you. And it took us almost 8 hours to do it as it was, so a video would take really long time. So it can be done. If you do it, it can be done with a pattern bit. Also I use a step bit to drill some of the holes. That'll cut through the sheet metal really easy without tearing it up. Anyhow, so wish you the best of luck if you're going to build one of those. Otherwise, if you purchase one of these, you get one that's clean, not any scratches. This video should be helpful in process of installing it. So also what we're going to do a couple more tune-up parts on our glove box lid. You can see I've got all our chrome replaced here, and I've reshot all our dash components in a base coat, clear coat setup just to give a little bit more shine on there when we put it together, a little bit better quality look. And then we're going to take a look at our glove box here. We're going to reflock this and restore this piece, hopefully new looking. So sometimes these glove boxes can be quite expensive to replace aftermarket, but they can be restored if it's in pretty good condition. This one here is in pretty good condition, just looks a little bit weathered and starting to show its age. So we'll go through how to reflock that, get that back to new condition. Okay, let's get the tripod set up and let's get started. So I just want to finish up assembling our glove box lid. What I got here, this piece here is the inside of the glove box. What I do to restore this is the original, really good condition. Just needs a couple things done to it. Surface area here, just clean that up with soapy water. After that, you can flash wipe it with a paper towel and acetone, and that actually will remove an oxidative layer and bring it back to a real supple condition. Almost feels like new once you wipe an acetone on there. Then you can see these lines here from the factory, and what those were reference lines for this elastic expansive tape here. And what this was for was to just basically hold documents inside the glove box. But this is all dried out, lost all its elastic properties. So what I've done is just got some replacement from the craft store. I'm going to put some of that on there using contact cement rather than staples, and a little super glue to hold that down. Then we'll go ahead and put that on and then install our pull. This is our pull. This has been restored. What I've done here is I've contact cemented, as you've seen in our last video with the headliner, using that same contact cement to laminate these two pieces together. Then this piece in here, this magnet strike, this center nut here, this is really important to retain this piece. It's actually got a spacer in there. This is supposed to work with some slack in it. So what I did originally is just grind off the back, was riveted on there, save that piece, and then when I reinstall, I regrind the fresh chrome just so I got a good scratch on there, and then I'm super gluing the backside, and that should be strong enough to hold that. Hopefully it is, and hopefully we won't have to try anything else. So once we have that in position, then we can go ahead and bolt this down to the lid. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I got the contact cement on there. Not putting gobs and gobs on, just enough to make contact. And I've cut these basically the same length as the ones that's come off of there. Just stick those down, get that started, and pull it. Probably about, you can see the old impregnated mark in there, so we'll just line up with that. Not too tight, right about there, and then stick it. Okay, hold that down. That should be good. Other thing I'm going to do, once I get the other one on there, I'm going to take a little gel super glue and just run a bead of it around each side of this, and that'll act kind of like a weld. That way for sure that's not ever going to come off. Okay, that's going to work good. Let me put the other one on there, and then we'll install it on the lid. Okay, there it is, good as new. So now, no problem holding our documents in there. You can see I've got just a little weld of super glue. I like to use gel for anything that needs a lot of holding power, that needs a little bit of a buildup. Sometimes just a regular super glue works better to get down in a very, very small crack. That'll hold better than the gel, but in this case, this is going to work perfect. Okay, so while that's drying, let's move on to the glove box. Okay, taking a close-up look at our glove box then. So what this really is made up of is like a cardboard, almost like a composite type press paper. Really good condition, hasn't gotten wet, so should restore nicely. You can see it's just kind of like a pulp that's been pressed into a mold. A little bit of cracking in there. Nothing bad though. It can't be fixed and restored. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand this outside using a Scotch-Brite really good, get that prepped. And then I'm also going to sand up the inside. I'm going to try and remove all this old flocking with a Scotch-Brite and then follow it up with some dry 800 grit sandpaper. The reason I want to take that off of there is the cement that I'm going to use needs to go down very, very smooth in order to get a good quality flocking job on there. If I put the cement directly over this flocking, I'd end up with a lot of problems. It'd be too wet, and it wouldn't turn out very nice. So we need to get that off there as best we can, blow it out with an air hose, and then we're ready to go. So let me get this sanded up, then we'll take a look at the undercoating. Okay, got it all sanded up here, so that's pretty much what it should look like. I'm going to go ahead and put the POR 15 coating on the outside. That should give us a real good seal and toughen it up quite a bit. And then you can see on the inside there, it's on the right, very, very minor flocking residual left in there. So yeah, good sanding job is really what you need to do to prep this properly. Okay, let's get the POR 15 done, and then we'll go ahead and move on to the inside. Alright, just spreading it on there with a brush. The reason I'm doing the POR 15 first as opposed to the flocking is because I have to press something inside this to keep this pressed up or propped up so I can work with it. And I don't want to damage the flocking once I have that on there. So if I do this first, then we don't have to worry about that. Let's just go ahead and finish brushing this out and see what it looks like. So there she is after one coat. So I'm going to let that dry up, see what it looks like after one coat. If it looks good, we'll stop there. If it looks like it needs another coat, then we'll put one more coat on there. Today is a pretty warm day, so that shouldn't take too long to dry up. Okay, while that's drying, let's go over and finish putting the glove box lid together. So back to our glove box lid then. So what we're looking at now, this is the inside of the glove box. And this guy's just going to sit down in there in that groove and then press tight against there. Our top finisher is then going to bolt down. Turn that around. It's going to bolt down on top of there like that, and that lip is what's going to hold that in place. Originally these were riveted in with a roundover type rivet that's stuck down. It actually protruded down below this lip here. Had to grind those off to get those rivets out so we can re-chrome this piece here and refinish this edge. So what I'm doing to replace those, I'm using some button head screws, and these are M3s 0.5 by 10. Looks like it's going to be the best length. I picked up a couple different lengths, a by 6 and a by 10, but it looks like the 10 is going to be the right length. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use those to go down through here, bolt that down, and hopefully tighten that up. Let's go ahead and put those in there, see what that looks like. Okay, you can see those screws worked out real nice. So button head, M3.5 by 10 works best for that. And you can see the inside here, that nylock, just a right length to finish that off. And by using these as opposed to a rivet, serviceable. So if I need to get this top off here again, I don't have to worry about risking damaging it with some kind of grinder, grinding those rivets. Okay, so then we're going to slide our lock through. This little nut here, this goes in, it's very directional. So flat side goes out. There's got a flange that goes on the inside. That'll nut down on this. Snug is fine. And then put our lock on there, washer, and then our hold down. And put that guy on there. But for now, I'm not going to put this in place. I'm just going to set it up with a magnet. So let's take a look at our magnet and then go out there and get this guy installed. So here's our magnetic catch. It's all been reworked. So I've replated the inside pieces, all the nuts and bolts that are going to go with it. And then also you can see here's our rivets that we turn to a button head screw. So real similar looking, just much more serviceable. We need to get that thing off of there. Okay, let me snap this guy together. We'll take it outside, put it on the car, and get that lid on. Okay, got this one all put back together. So this is the order. The nuts are going to go together, and then it gets a lock washer on the back side, mostly for shimming purposes once we get it on the car. And then this is how it's going to work. So you can see the space. Yeah, that works on there. So that's got to come out. If that's tight, it's not going to work properly. It's got to come out like that. Okay, let's go bolt her up. So here's our lid. Getting quite heavy now. It's all put together. So all this is just two nuts. Going to bolt down. And it's got a little flange in here. So this flange is going to line up with this socket, this pocket here, so that our screw can go through there. And that's what tightens down the actual glove box. So let me just put the camera down, get these nuts on there, see what it looks like. Okay, so this is looking at it from the inside. So these screws here, this is really loose. Drop that down. See how this is just really, you really want it loose, and then when you close the door, it'll seat. Once that's seated and everything's lined up right, that's where the setting is going to be, so then you can torque your screws down. So we got our glove box lid all set up now, got our magnet in there, everything's adjusted. And close that guy up there. Everything looks nice and aligned, pretty much the way it looked when I pulled it off the car. So what I want to do now, I want to take the aluminum trim that comes across the dash. It's going to go through the dashboard and off to this tailpiece here. I'm going to stick a picture in here to show you what it looked like when I found the car, so we can see how the factory alignment was. Try and get as close to that as possible. First thing we're going to do, we're going to mock it up with masking tape, do a dry run, make sure everything fits through it, all our switches and knobs, everything's going to work out okay. If we like everything, then we'll line it up, stick it down. Let's look at our badge detail and see how we got that located on there. So if you buy one of these trim kits, chances are it's not going to have these locating holes for your 911 or 912 badge. So what I did is I just took this one, dropped it over the top of this, used those marks as my template to drill those out. I've got the original badge off by just grinding off the backside, just kind of peened over to hold it on there. Just grind that off, should come right out of there. And then once I've got my new holes in, just press it back in the holes, and a little super glue in there, plenty strong to hold that in there. Okay, let's get some masking tape, take that outside, get everything mocked up. Alright, got it all mocked up here, so it looks like what's going to happen when we come across here, this glove box section, we're going to be as tight to this top edge as we can possibly get it, and then line up our end piece to that. A little bit of a bull nose showing down here, but as we get across to the other side, starting to get tighter to the bullnose. Our upper dashboard actually swings away from it because it's not a straight line. So best starting point really is going to be the center of our radio and ashtray pullout. So what's happening here, you can see it's offset a little bit. This actually was how it was with the original from the factory, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it that way. However, I had to open up the top section of my radio control holes just to make sure the radio gets in there. I've already set that in there. It's going to go. So let's go ahead and stick the center down, and then we can line everything up to it. Okay, so I've got my contact cement spread around this area, just putting a little tiny bit on at a time with fingertip. And what I'm doing is I'm staying away from the outside edges so I don't get anything on the areas that will show through, or as close to it as possible, so my clean off will be minimum. And then on my aluminum piece, taking a little bit more coverage, you can get out to the edge, it won't be a problem there. And that's pretty much what it should look like. So not too thick on that, and should be good to go. So let's go ahead and line this guy up. Okay, right about, so we're just gently touching it, centering up on my holes here and here. We're divided good here, okay, at the top there, right about there. That looks like about as much as I'm going to get out of it. So straight now, then we can just go ahead and gently press it down. Okay, I think that's going to work. Let's do the other three and then see what she looks like. And then lining up our dashboard. So same thing, spreading it out with the finger, staying away from these outer edges, and also on the back side, just staying away from those edges. There's plenty of holding power on all this. So this one we want to be as tight to that upper ridge as possible. Center up on the glove box, right there. That looks about right. Press it down. Meanwhile, we're leaving this one mocked up beside it so we can see the alignment on this side to this side. And then lining up our end piece here. Right about there. And on this end piece, the lower crash pad actually overlaps this a little bit. So if you buy one of these kits, it's going to be a sharp edge there. So I wouldn't worry about it. It's going to overlap anyways. Yeah, that looks real good. Okay, let's do the other one and then we should be done. Just putting a little bit of glue on at a time, leveling it out. Real important not to go back over it. Once it flashes, if I go back over this, it'll lift it. Just needs to be put on and then stop. Not getting too close to the edge there. Okay, do the back side of the aluminum and let's put it on. Okay, here we go. There, this hole being really our alignment and bottom edge. Trying to get this top lined up with that one over there. See, right about there. Press it down. Alright, looks good. You can see where this would be a big advantage now by not having the steering column in the way as we're putting it in. Okay, let's get the ashtray, put that in there and see how that works with it. So here's our ashtray all restored. So how this works, it's basically got a slide, this housing, 2 bolts up underneath the dashboard here, locks that in. So we just get that out of there, press down our release tab, pull that out, and So let me take these two nuts. I'll screw those in from underneath. Let me crawl around under the dashboard, get that in there, and then we'll put the ashtray in. Okay, got that guy in there. So yeah, those two bolts, real tedious to put those in there. Little miniature Allen wrench and a lot of screwing around. That took about a half hour just for those two screws. Okay, let's slide the ashtray in, see what it looks like. So removing the chrome trim piece out. I'm going to do that. Pull this guy back. So this guy's got to flip down first. And this has to slide over it and lock down, so it holds that piece down. Otherwise, it keeps flipping up and won't allow it to close. There it is. Okay, moving on to our flocking. So how this is applied, here's our flock. I got this from craftflocking.com. I got this through them. Also, I got this mini pump sprayer. What this does, you just fill the container about half full with your flock. Got holes in the end, and you just pump it. That's basically how it's applied. 8 ounces. I bought this 8 ounces. Way more than enough to do our small project here. And here's a test sample I've done on some card. You can see here, it's just brushed on. The adhesive is brushed on. Real tough. Real nice finish when it's done. This little flaw right here, what this is a blemish in the cardboard that had a little bit heavy adhesive on there. So if your adhesive is too thick, or if you have some flaws in your piece and the adhesive builds up, this is going to bleed through then. You have to add some more flock on there as it's drying to cover it up, but it will show through in the end. So we've got to really be careful that when we put our layer down, a nice thin, very tight to the surface coat is going to work best. You can see the dry brush marks here. Hangs on real tight. No chance of that coming off. Also, when we put the flocking on there, we pump it on. Not really possible to over flock it, so we just want to get good coverage in there. Make sure everything's stuck and covered. And then after, they recommend 12 to 15 hours of curing time. After that time, then we can remove the excess flock. We can blow it out of there with an air hose, and we should be good to go. Okay, let's set this up and get started. Okay, outside in the sunlight here so I can see what I'm doing. You see down in there, just really press it down in. Being careful not to soak any area too much. Press it down in there, make sure everything is 100% covered. Works a lot like our POR 15. I imagine that's probably because it's a polyurethane based product. A little bit thicker than our POR. These little areas right here can be a problem, so make sure you clean them out so you don't have any standing cement in there. Okay, I'm doing this outside, and also wearing a mask is best. Also getting the front edge. Flip it over. Spread it around. So let's look at our finished product. So what I have is I got 2 full coats, POR 15, a full 24 hours on setup with our flocking. Then that's been blown out with 150 PSI air hose, and yeah, really looks nice. Really tough in there also, no loose residual bits whatsoever. Real nice, soft, and durable finish. Okay, let's go put this guy in, see what she looks like. So this one just slides in from underneath. You got 1 screw going through the center there and the hold down clamp, and that pretty much does that. Okay guys, that's going to do it for this video. I'd like to say a special thanks to my friend Don for taking his time and extreme patience and working with me on this piece. Really turned out nice. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.